Welcome to Casa de Confidence
A podcast for women
and some cool dudes.
going in the direction of their dreams and the confidence it takes to reach them. I'm your host, Julie DeLucca-Collins.
And your sidekick, handsome hot husband. That again.
I am a dreamer, a traveler, a visionary, and risk taker. I am a lover of books, activist, philanthropist, and most of all, we are a supporter of people and their dreams. If you stumble into the casa for the first time, welcome. If you've been here before, we're so glad you're back. Grab your drink of choice, settle in, and make yourself at home. Welcome back to another episode of Casa de Confidence. Today, I am talking about my imperfection and how I am embracing it. And by the end of this episode, you too are going to walk away with 3 main ways in which you can also learn to embrace your imperfection and live the life that you've imagined. We're starting a year new, and I know that many of us have big, audacious, great things that we want to accomplish, but we take ourselves wherever we go. So we're coming in with a lot of the things that have weighed us down in previous years. Now, there's a lot of pressure out there in the world, and I'm going to unpack that a little bit. Mostly, let me start with a cute story. Well, it's not really cute, but again, it may make the point. From a very early age, I am the oldest. I am also someone that grew up in a house in which much was expected from all of us. I was always told as a child that I needed to set a good example. I was told that you are a leader, not a follower. What will people think of you? So again, societal expectations were put on my shoulders from a very early age. I remember when I was in kindergarten, and if you've heard me talk about this before, my grandmother had a school. So I lived and went to school in the same place. And of course, although I don't think that I did, I got different treatment from the other students. In kindergarten, I actually was playing with a child, another friend, and she had a toy and then she didn't want to share it. And she put herself, she clenched herself and clenched it to her face. And then I went and I grabbed the toy from her, but rather than grabbing it like a 5-year-old would do, I punched her in the eye and I gave her a black eye. Yeah, I gave someone a black eye at 5 years old unintentionally. Now, here is what happened afterwards. The kindergarten teacher took her and me and walked us to every single classroom in the school and told the teacher, look what the daughter or the granddaughter of the principal did. She punched this child out. And I was incredibly embarrassed. And even to this day, I remember how I felt as that small young child. And, it was unintentional, but nonetheless, it was a place in which I was placed in front of others. And I was, not only shown to have had behavior that wasn't great, but I was embarrassed and I was ashamed of what I had done. Now, I will tell you that at the end of the day, the teacher said, I will tell your nanny and she is going to tell your dad. And when he gets home, he's going to punish you. And I was afraid the entire day of what was going to happen when my dad got home. I will tell you that the memory is really vivid in my mind, not only of being taken to every classroom and how the other kids looked at me in the entire school, but also how the teachers would shake their head and be like, oh, she's a spoiled child, right? But here's the thing. At the end of the day, my dad came home and I remember him walking into the house and, we lived in this great big house and it was a big corridor and I was sort of sitting in the living room reading a book and waiting for, the other shoe to drop. And the nanny came, this, and that happened. And she pointed at me and my dad came over and he said, honey, we all make mistakes. And I remember to this day that was just one of the things that made a big difference. But again, I could not help but to walk away with many of the stories and many of the things that we tell ourselves that began from an early age, right? So again, even though we might have had a lot of great, meaning adults, loving adults. And by the way, I do love my kindergarten teacher. She was amazing. And I still, to this day, um, 50 some odd years later, I still keep in touch with her. But again, we are given these scripts and these things that begin to play in the back of our mind. And practice makes perfect. The push to be the best, to have good grades, to fit in, to avoid judgment have lived with us from a long, long time. Also, I remember at a I don't know if I was 6, 7, I don't know, later on in life, I talked to one of the adults in my life. I believe it was my aunt. And she was saying, I don't even know how we got into the conversation, but I remember saying to her, I can't wait to get colored contacts because I want blue eyes. And I also wanted to have a new nose because I felt my nose was big. So, yeah, so I've had a lot of self image problems from a very young age. Later on, when I was in middle school and into high school, I really started to avoid the sun. Living in Miami, the sun is very prevalent. But let me tell you, when you stand outside, sit outside, and I spent a lot of time outdoors, I ended up having my skin begun to turn darker and darker, right? I tan very easily. And I remember that I didn't want to be darker because it didn't make me fit in. So now the thing is, I know that this is not unique to me. There's many other ways in which all of us have found ways in which we see ourselves and we compare ourselves to the world in which we know that we don't measure up based on the standard that somebody else has given us. But I am here to tell you that for me, I have learned that that comparison stole my joy. I know that for many years in my life, I was always trying to be, to have, to do. And overall, it created a lot of angst. And as a high achiever, it was never enough. I never achieved enough. I never had enough. I always wanted to be more. Once you achieve something, I wanted to move to the same place. Now, perhaps you're not a high achiever, but you have been comparing yourself and your joy has been stolen. There's some eye opening statistics, and we make over 34 billion choices daily about our daily life. And if we live to be 79, 80, that means that out of 34 billion choices that we're making, right, we're going to make about 34 million mistakes. And the reality is that we need to normalize that imperfection, to make mistakes. It's a must, it is a given, and it's part of life. Now, it is okay, right? That there are going to be ways in which we fall short and we make mistakes. But my friend, mistakes are our friends. Mistakes are our teachers. Mistakes are the thing that give us perspective and understanding and allow us to show up again. Because no mistake is something that doesn't come with lessons. Now, procrastination in my life became a perfectionist trap. And I think that if you start to look at ways in which you procrastinate, it is perhaps because you want to be perfect, because you're afraid of not hitting the mark, of maybe that someone is going to criticize you. But hiding imperfections is like trying to have all these smoke and mirrors. And the reality is that then that creates disconnection, not only from ourselves, but from others because we're not showing up as we are. We're so afraid of people seeing us. Now, I want to tell you that there's some ways in which we can break free from imperfection. And the first thing is the importance of self-compassion. If you think about the many times in which you chastise yourself, catch yourself saying, oh, and I do it all the time still, even though I become more aware. Oh, Julie, I can't believe that. Oh, Julie, you're so stupid. This negative self-talk doesn't help us. We would never tell a child that we love, oh my God, you're so stupid. You couldn't do that. And by the way, if you're the kind of person who does that to a child, shame on you. You're not a very nice person. And I hope that you know that maybe this is something you need to curb. But again, imperfections are not flaws to hide the parts of us we embrace. Acknowledge that we make mistakes and, by the way, persist. Persist in showing up and don't resist it. Because a lot of the times when we are resisting making mistakes, we are not allowing ourselves to grow. And we're going to continue in this round and round and round thing of hating ourselves, not loving ourselves, of not having the self compassion. There's a lot of societal pressures that other people have out there, but we need to cut the cord on those. Cut the cord and begin to look at you with different eyes. One of the things that when I started to really learn self compassion for myself is when I realized that maybe I needed to look at that little girl, that she meant well, that she wanted to play. She wanted to have fun and she wanted to look at what that toy was, right? She never intended to hurt somebody else. So really look at your intentions, look at your heart. And if maybe your heart and intentions were in the right place, then begin to say, you know what? Now that I know better, I can do better. But love yourself despite the mistakes, despite the imperfections you have. Now, in my journey to personal growth and really being able to shift from really hating that I was not perfect, right? And embracing my imperfections, I started to implement a mindfulness practice. And that was just noticing when I was thinking that I wasn't enough, when I was comparing myself, when I wanted to be better or I wanted to achieve more, have more, do more. Embracing daily practices like mindfulness help me notice and then not necessarily beat myself over what I was doing, but being curious. Wow, I do that a lot. When I'm in this circumstance, this is when I beat myself up. When I'm placed in and I see these things, then I want that, right? Think about and embracing that mindfulness, whether it be stopping, listening, or just analyzing your days, right? And thinking, what happened? What went well today? And then noticing, like, oh, today I had a lot of really great things go well, but this is an area in which, wow, I really beat myself up. Or I was feeling that I wasn't enough when I was scrolling Instagram, or when my friend got that client and I didn't, I started to compare and despair. For us, embracing the daily practices of mindfulness doesn't have to be hard, my friends. There's very specific ways in which I tend to embrace mindfulness, and it's not a very big way, honestly. You have heard me talk about how in the afternoons I make myself a cup of tea, and that's a really great spot for me to make the tea and very mindfully, very demure stay in the moment. I watch how the water boils. I watch as I poured it into the cup, as the water begins to change colors. You know what? I am not combating imperfection then, but I am practicing to be in the moment, not going about life with that white nose or just doing the thing very automatic. That mindfulness is going to help you notice the bigger things, things that bring you down. Other ways in which I stay mindful is journaling. As you know, I love to journal, and that's something that I probably haven't been doing enough, but I can tell you that everywhere in my house, I have a journal. I have been doing the Author's Way by Julia Cameron, the morning pages, and that has been a really great way to know when I'm really beating myself up and when I'm giving myself a hard time. Don't think about that you have to be perfect as you journal. It may just be that you're writing one word or a sentence or a list. Everything is individual, is different. It has to be your way, not everybody's way. We need to find peace with how we show up and then know that maybe we do want to evolve. We want to become better, not perfect. And then that means just showing up again 1% better than we did before. The other way that I can't wait to be able to incorporate my practice of mindfulness that I don't necessarily do very much in the winter is I sit outside drinking my coffee and I bird watch. And I just allow myself to be in that moment. So think of ways in which you can find that mindfulness. And as you're finding that mindfulness, you are going to find joy. One of the biggest things that I love is to dance and have a dance party in my kitchen, in my house. And I just love dancing. I love music. And by the way, I have a playlist called Serotonin. If you leave me comments here, if you're on YouTube, leave me a comment and say serotonin playlist, and I will send you a copy of it. And it's a surefire way that it gets me in a really good mood when I'm listening to all these songs. The other thing, too, is that I love to do car karaoke. And a lot of times, sometimes we might be driving and we're singing along at the top of our lungs, and then someone pulls up next to us and they look at us, and it's very easy to be like embarrassed and, oh my God, what are they going to think? Who the hell cares, right? Enjoy yourself. Sing at the top of your lungs. If you love that song, don't worry about the next car. By the way, maybe you have the joy that they needed to see. So be okay with letting it go. Listen to these ways in which maybe you're stifling yourself because you're worried about what other people are going to think. Now, I want you to think about when you're finding joy and you are looking to, again, find that mindfulness. The one thing that you're also going to need is you're going to have to rest. Many of us, in our perfection, in our way of seeking to be better and be all things to everyone, we forget to really rest. But, for instance, if you think of our iPhones or your phone, when it's out of battery, it's useless. The same thing for you. And by the way, when I mean rest, let it rest in the charger. Don't pick it up. Let it rest because that's going to power it up faster rather than you being plugged in and still using it. Let it rest. Find your ways in which you're resting, in which you are just recharging, whether it be napping or going to bed early or just sitting on your couch, not watching TV because that's charging with something else, right? That's just let it go. Be present in the moment and know that it's okay. Because for many of us, part of our imperfection is that we don't want to rest. But again, you will be a useless phone, a useless thing, person, if you are not allowing yourself to recharge. And last but not least, in this realm, you want to go ahead and be curious and play. Overcome the belief that doing nothing, right, is a waste of time. I always think that, and I have to battle that belief, but it's not a waste of time. And on the times that I am telling myself, oh my gosh, why are you laying around? I have to be curious. Why am I telling them to myself? Who says I'm not accomplishing things? I am recharging. But also, after you recharge, allow yourself to play. It's not about being functional, it's about being human. And play, curiosity are ways in which we recharge. Now, most of you have probably read the power of imperfection. Oh, am I saying that wrong? Okay, that's imperfect, right? By Brene Brown. I want you to know that this is one of the greatest books that you are going to read. But here's the thing. One of the things that she talks a lot is about shame. And as you know, I carry a lot of shame that came from different experiences, right? But shame thrives in the darkness. It's kind of like that thief that is in an alley and it's going to jump unexpectedly. So when you are resting, when you are giving yourself recharge time, when you are finding joy, when you're being mindful, you're going to be going less into the alleys where shame is going to jump out at you. Now, I want you to also, to overcome shame, focus on gratitude. Gratitude is an incredible gift. I remember that there were so many ways that when my dad was in hospice that I felt inept, that I felt that who am I to do this? I don't even know how I'm showing up. Am I doing the things that he needs? And I was robbing myself of the joy. And it wasn't until I became grateful for the opportunity to be there imperfectly, but just to be there, that I found the joy in those difficult moments. As my mom has moved in with me, one of the things that I find is that I'm not always going to get it right. But number one, if I am grateful for the opportunity to be here for her, we're going to find the joy. This week we went to get a manicure and a pedicure, and she's had a hard time sitting in the chair. She's kind of sliding in the chair. We're kind of joking about that. And then after she finished the pedicure, we were going to go get a manicure. And then I went to help her with her shoes, and she's got these boots and she's got like really thick socks. And I'm like, okay, mom, put your foot flat, put your foot flat. And she's still sitting in the chair, and I'm trying to not have her slip and fall. And I'm shoving the shoe into her foot. And then it wouldn't like zip up because it had a zipper at the back of the heel. And I'm like, what the hell is wrong? And finally I shoved it and I pulled the zipper up. And then I look and I had the shoe in the wrong foot. And then when we both noticed, we ended up cracking the hell up. So I was imperfect with how I was putting her shoe on, but we found the joy in the moment. And my friend, finding the joy and the gratitude, I was so grateful that I had the opportunity to be there with her, to be able to help her with her shoe. And then I was so grateful that we could laugh at my imperfection. So that's another way in which you will overcome shame, by having gratitude. And it's going to help you, again, step out of the shadows of shame. Shadows of shame are going to be everywhere, but we can choose to not step on those shadows. Go to the sunny side of the road. Overall, my friends, my word for the year, as many of you know, is fearless. And I want to acknowledge that there's still going to be pain. There's going to be places in which I don't show up as my best. I don't do the things that I want, but I want to be present. I want to do so with gratitude, with joy. And I want to invite you to reflect on how you can embrace your imperfection this week. Notice the places in which you're beating yourself up. Notice the places in which you don't want to show people that you're not who they think that you are. Be okay with walking away from creating the smokes and mirrors. Notice when your battery is getting um, emptied, and when you need to recharge. And again, notice how you can embrace the imperfections for yourself. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I'd love to hear what you think about imperfection and how you're working to overcome it. Because the reality is, my friends, that we need each other. We need each other in community to be able to go and do these things. Now, here are your 3 lessons in case they were kind of lost in everything that I talked about. Number 1, embrace self compassion. Recognize your imperfections. Replace the criticism with kindness and understanding for yourself, and focus on growth rather than the unachievable standards of perfection. Number 2, shift your mindset. Reframe, rest and play. Allow yourself to do nothing. Build resilience with persisting. There are going to be challenges, and knowing that these challenges are there to create a better version of you is important. Bounce back and cultivate a daily practice of joy and presence. Be present for yourself, because when you are present for yourself, you're going to be present for others. So, again, I'd love to hear what you thought of this. If this is an episode that you feel may be helpful, I would love it if you share it with somebody else. I know that sometimes we need to learn and gain insights from our community, and you are somebody else's community in addition to being a part of mine. So grateful that you're here. And my friends, don't forget, you can also get a copy of the serotonin playlist. You can go down to the comments and let me that. If you are listening on the podcast feed, email me at julie@goconfidentlycoaching.com or message me on any of the social media platforms, and I will send you a copy of the serotonin playlist. Thank you for tuning in, and my friends, don't forget, go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Until next time, I am so grateful for you and grateful that we have the opportunity to be imperfect together.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Casa de Confidence podcast with Julie DeLucca-Collins. Remember to check her out on Instagram and Facebook, and always click subscribe to catch every new episode. Remember, leave a review so we can continue to bring you fresh content. And as always, go confidently in the direction of your dreams.
Hi, everybody. I know that sometimes we get very lonely in this entrepreneur journey, and I want to invite you to join us into our limited time only Purposeful You Mastermind. For many of us entrepreneurs, we believe that we can do it all. But the reality is that doing it alone only creates a lot of overwhelm. So join us at the Purposeful You Mastermind. You can find out more information by going to bit.ly/Julie's Mastermind. This is going to be the place where you are able to then unlock your full potential and achieve long-term success for your business. Push you behind your current limits, expand your connections, discover new ideas, and implement them with confidence. You're going to get the support in all aspects and transforming you to the six-figure business you've been looking for. Pause and get off the hamster wheel if you've been spinning around. This is a time where you can get that support from like-minded entrepreneurs that are here to join you in your journey. Together, we can challenge the assumptions and land the speaking engagements and opportunities we want to grow our business and make an impact in the lives of people. See you then. Remember, you can find the mastermind at bit.ly, Julie's Mastermind.